Hi there, we're back with CopaLoadofRacing after a couple of weeks break, ready and refreshed to go. Looking ahead to Donny, Wincanton and Aintree tomorrow. Look at a few of the races there. So yeah, good to be back, fighting fit, ready to go, get stuck into the winter action that's about to really commence now. Tomorrow sees the last of the flat action on the turf with Doncaster, and it's a pretty decent card tomorrow there on Town Moor. And we've also got the Badger Eels Trophy at Wincanton to look at, along with the Elite Hurdle, and we'll also look at a decent handicap hurdle at Aintree, their second meeting of the season. So yeah, missed a bit of the action, you know, some of the big 2-year-old races, some of the 2-year-old races ending off the flat season there. It's been overall been a pretty good flat season on the turf. I'll be sad to see it go. It's my favourite form of horse racing, but I'm sure as the jump season really gets going, particularly when we get to the next Cheltenham meeting, which is next weekend. Is it next weekend? I think it is. Then that 3-day jumps meeting, you really start to feel the vibes of it. And then you've got Haydock with the Betfair, the start of the Triple Crown, with the Betfair Chase, and then you've got Hennessy, well it used to be Hennessy's, now the Ladbrokes Trophy, and then we're right into Tingle Creek and way back to the international meeting at Cheltenham, and before you know it's Boxing Day and it's King George. So yeah, plenty to look forward to in that respect, and I say, as I'm sure in the blogs coming up over the next couple of weeks when we really do focus on the jumps cards, it'll be some exciting racing to preview, but not to say that I'll be still having a wee dabble in the old weather. Lingfield has some decent races over the next couple of weeks on their Saturday card as the all-weather championship gets underway as well. Right, looking at Doncaster tomorrow, as I say, pretty good card. First race I'm going to look at is a 2:05. It's the Marathon Bet official global partner of Manchester City Wentworth Stakes. It's a listed race, but when you look at it, it actually could pass off with group class without a problem. I've said throughout the summer and into the autumn that a lot of these black type sprint races, really, particularly the group races, some of the times it says it's a group 2, but in name it could be, it's a group 2, but in theory it could easily be a group 1. Some of the group 1s you've looked at, you think really it's more group 3 class, but this listed race certainly could pass off as a group race, even a group 2, when you look at some of those that are involved. One of them's at the top of the market is Don Juan Triumphant, and I can understand why. Andrew Baldwin's horses, really the last couple of outings has shown some really good form, finishing, I think it was 4th in the Sprint Cup behind Tin Man, and then finishing 3rd to Sands of Mali in the Champion Sprint at Ascot on Champions Day. So certainly has the form there to land a blow in this race. You've also got Laugh a Minute, who was some thought well off going into the Commonwealth Cup, but he hasn't really blossomed since. It has been gelded since then, and has won at Doncaster before. Finished behind a really good horse that was well thought of at Deauville in a Group 3 race. That horse then didn't go on to perform that well in the Abbey, maybe excuses there. But back on course and distance winner, always has there is horses that do perform really well at Donny time and time again. They might go elsewhere, not really perform as expected, then come back to Doncaster and run really well. So for that reason, you can't rule it out. La Brise a Breeze won the champion sprint last season. You know, loves soft ground, and I expect that it will be soft ground. It's absolutely chucking it down up here at the moment. I don't know what it's like in the North of England, but I'm of the understanding that the vast majority of the country is going to see rain tonight. So we would love a lot of cut in the ground, that's for sure. But even then, it got its conditions at Ascot a couple of weeks ago. Didn't land a blow at all. Hasn't really performed to that standard this season. So that's why a big question mark has to hang over this Dean Ivory horse. If it was to show its form of last season, it would probably win the race, but it's not. Could it be love? The Aidan O'Brien horse. Good to see Aidan send over another horse in this type of race. This horse steps back down in trip, and you know, is useful enough sort, and probably comes in here with a wee each way squeak. But I'm going to ignore it. The horse, that Gordon Lord Byron's another one who's been a consistent performer. But it could get into the frame, but I just don't see it winning. The horse that I like, and I've said this horse before, particularly early in the season, and actually put it up as with an each way shout in the 1000 guineas. And I just think that stepping back in this trip really travelled really well at Ascot last month, over 7 furlongs. Never found much though in that last furlong, so I think this step back, the soft ground should help as well. So Eirene, Dean Ivory's other charge in this race. I'm going back to this horse because I did think earlier in this season, I really did think it was it. I remember, was it each way I put it up in the Guineas? It ran at Newmarket, and I remember it coming down in the dip, and she just changed her legs. She was travelling well, and I thought a flat track would do her. And I think she was next out at Ascot, and I one of their group races, and I remember thinking, I think this horse has a chance, and she never done anything. But she seems to be finding her feet of late. Won on the all-weather back in August, and as I say, has finished second here at Doncaster previously, and as I say, I think the 7 furlongs at Ascot I was asking too much, so I think 6 furlongs is going to give her a wee chance. She gets, because of her weight for age and what have you, she carries less weight. Jim Crowley's on board, so there's a lot of positives there, and I think she has an each way squeak. So that's Eirene there for Dean Ivory and Jim Crowley. Right, looking at the next at Donny, it's the 245, and that's the visit marathonbet.co.uk handicap over 7 furlongs. I'll pinpoint 2 here. Right, well, Lord Oberon, this is an improving sort, who's ran pretty well. Was running pretty low graded races like at Seville and what have you, but it's been runner up the last 2 times out, I think, one of them at Haydock, so it gets worthy favourite claims. Shady McCoy's another one that's in here. This horse we all know about. It's very common to see in these 7 furlong handicaps. It's been in and out, just when you think it's going to perform well, it doesn't, and then you maybe ignore it, and then it runs another blinder. Not to say that it's winning races, but James Doyle's booked to on board tomorrow, so that's one to watch. The other one that I think might do well, particularly if the ground goes its way, and I think it ran recently, it ran last time out, when it came back from a break and finished 3rd in a 7 furlong race at Redcar. It was a listed race, and if it can get back to that type of form in a handicap, then I think great prospector for Paul Hannigan and Richard Fahey has a good shout, as I say, at an each way punt there. Right, looking at the big handicap of the day, the November handicap, the Marathon Bet November handicap, just shy of 1.5 miles. Right, this is one where it's a massive big handicap, as you can imagine. This race, it's got a decent prize fund, a lot target. Birds of Prey has been one that's been spoken about this week for Paul Nicholls and Megan Nicholls. The horse used to be, I think was it a Clive Hawkes horse? Well, I'm looking at the wrong horse there. John Hawkes, sorry, horse. Won a couple of times for John Hawkes. Now with Paul Nicholls, I think he feels pretty confident that this horse is going to run very well, so has to be looked at. Eric the Red is another one that I've had a wee flutter on throughout the season, and I am not going to ignore it tomorrow either, because I think it has an opportunity to get its head in front here in this race. He's not been campaigned, vigorously this season, this horse, and he's maybe been a little bit unlucky in his races. Ran well in this race a couple of years ago, and he's racing off a similar mark than what he showed back in 2016. So for that reason, he can't be ignored. Another one which is nearer the head of the market is Now Children, for Adam Kirby and Clive Cox. Now, I think this is the same horse that I remember. It's a 4-year-old, but I seem to remember this horse a couple of years ago running at Ayr for Iain Jardine, Now Children. I think it's the same horse, but it's under different connections now. And was it Iain Jardine? I'm sure it was, but I remember at the time he knew that he had won a decent race on Ayr Gold Cup day. I'll need to look back on that, but I should have looked at it before. It's just sprung to mind when I was looking back through it. And Now Children, I'm sure Iain Jardine trained it. And I thought, or was it not Iain Jardine? Was it one of the Northern trainers? And I remember at the time, after him winning that race at Ayr, they were going to target it next season for the Guineas, or they were going to sell it abroad. Anyway, it's running for Clive Cox now, and it likes deep ground, so it's got a little bit of a rise in the weights because of that victory at Goodwood, but because of the ground, looks likely to have a bit of real cut in it. Then I think it has a good chance. Now Children. I'll take to Twitter on that one about Now Children. I'm positive it was. Anyway, right, that's the Donny action. Let's get moving. 3 more races to look at. Let's go to Wincanton. The Unibet Elite Hurdle, this grade 2, just shy of 2 miles at Wincanton. Now they had good ground, actually good firm ground earlier today. Don't know how much rain they're going to get away down there in the south of England, but we'll see. Now, looking at this race, you've got Harry Fry is with If the Cap Fits, which has won its last 3 races, all back end of earlier last season, the last of them being at Kempton. The other one that I really like, though, I have to say, is because you've also got Rudishan in here who's loved Kempton, and it wins most of its races there. there. Alan King has a penchant to send a lot of his horses to Kempton. He likes to do that. But Wincanton goes the same way as Kempton, I suppose. So that would have a chance tradition. The other one that I like is the Darryl Jacobs and Nicky Henderson connection, which is We Have a Dream. Now, this was a well thought of novice last season, and you know what I mean, he's going to come into this. He likes cutting the ground, which he's got when he won at Chepstow, when he won at Musselburgh on Cheltenham Trials Day back then, and then he missed Cheltenham. I think he was sick. He couldn't go to Cheltenham for whatever reason, but he's now turned up at Aintree and won pretty impressively at Aintree. So We Have a Dream for me in that race. Looking at the Badger Ales Trophy handicap chase, I like Big Bad John. I've always this horse won it at Wincanton last month over a similar type of trip, but it was on really fast ground. Really not fast ground for jumps racing. But you go back and it's one at Kempton on softish ground if it is to be that. So for that reason, I like Big Bad John. One that I wouldn't rule out either though. There's two that, you know, there's King's Lad, who for Richard Johnson and Colin Tizard. I think that will have a, you know, it's maybe disappointed last time out at Ascot, but had won at Chepstow earlier in the season. Had been campaigned late spring into the early autumn, and had won at the likes of Fontwell and Exeter, but has been gradually progressing, stepping up in trip, and so should go well, as can't be ignored. The other one is Sam Red, who won at Cheltenham last month for Dan Skelton, who's been in really good form. So, you know, another big handicap, like which he did win at Cheltenham last time out, wouldn't go wrong here. The amateur jockey actually keeps a ride on it after that victory at Cheltenham, so it'll be interesting to see how well that goes. So, but I'm going to stick with Big Bad John, but maybe a wee bit of money each way on Sam Red. And finally, moving to Aintree, they have a decent card. Looking at the 2.5 mile British Thoroughbred Retraining Centre hurdle, over 2.5 miles. A really good race this. You've got the likes of You Know What I Mean, Harry. This horse, of course, has some classy efforts in its CV. You've got Intent Portu, who has done most of its winning over fences, the likes of the winning at the Cheltenham Festival previously. Vision to Flow is another one who's coming back to hurdles after unseating over fences. And you have Holstone, who is a pretty smart hurdler when it goes his way. It's coming to this race having, I don't think it ran, obviously. Did it run at Weatherby? But it's coming here, you know, having maybe a wee bit of a recovery mission, should we say. So, but he's coming back to Wincanton, where he's done well in the past. Agripar, if it does really get deep ground, Agripar for Lizzie Kelly and Nick Williams has to be given a chance. Won the Cleve Hurdle, of course, in deep ground. Plods through it, gets through it. That's over like 3 miles though, and this is 2.5. So I would only really go for it if it was really testing ground. I would fancy Agripar. But if it's just soft ground, I wouldn't say. I think there's maybe horses in here where just a touch more class to get through it to beat the likes of Agripar. So if I was to favour in anything, I'll go for Holstone. I'll plump for Holstone, who won't mind any of the ground that it turns out at Wincanton. So even if it is, if it does stay in the good side, it shouldn't bother Holstone either. Not too, and out of all the races, that's the race that I would say I'm not absolutely 100% with regards to you know, real positiveness as to how well that horse will perform in that particular one. But it's worth watching these horses now. Some of them first time out of the season, a lot of them have maybe had a run over it, checking to see if there's any bounce factor for some of them in these races. So a lot of the times, as I say, takes me a wee while to get my head round into the jumps racing in terms of that, to make sure that you've got a bit more form behind you as we get into later in the year. And then, you know, as always happens here, you'll be soon every at the end of each race, the tickets for the bookies come out and tell you what the price it is for whatever race at the festival, and festival previews probably be starting next week somewhere. So yeah, we've got that all to look forward to over the next couple of weeks. So next week it is Cheltenham, what we'll be looking at, and there'll surely be plenty of great races to look forward to at Presbury Park. But for me at the moment, hope you have a great weekend, happy punting, and if you're off to any Scottish racing, I did look at the Kelso card, I have to say, but there was nothing there that jumped out at me, I have to be honest. If you're going on Kelso, have a great day. I'm probably be quite pretty testing ground at Kelso tomorrow, I would imagine. I don't know what the weather's to be like tomorrow down there. Hopefully it'll be dry enough for those punters going along, so enjoy the racing if you're off to Kelso. But enjoy your weekend overall. CopaLoadofRacing.